The night does not arrive all at once. It settles slowly, like a careful hand lowering a curtain. Perhaps you are listening from a room where the lights are already dim, where the day has loosened its grip, but has not yet fully let go. Outside, the world continues its gentle rhythm, distant traffic. A breeze touching the edges of buildings, the quiet murmur of lives unfolding elsewhere. Inside, there is nothing you need to do, nothing you need to remember, nothing you need to solve, just this moment. Imagine for a while that time itself has softened. The sharp edges of the present blur, and the centuries drift closer until the past no longer feels far away. Tonight's story does not rush toward an ending. It does not demand attention. It simply opens a door and invites you to step through slowly, comfortably, at your own pace. Long ago, on a coastline warmed by the last breath of the sun, there stood a place built not for noise or glory, but for watching. A tower, not a tower of conquest, nor of warning horns and marching feet, but a tower of light. A steady presence against the dark. It rose from pale stone, smooth with age even in its youth, overlooking a wide and patient sea. Sailors would one day call it a miracle. Historians would give it names and measurements. But in its earliest nights, it was simply there, standing quietly, doing what it was made to do, to remain. Before we drift deeper into tonight's gentle journey, remember to subscribe to TDU's History for Sleep. Here, you'll always find peaceful stories that soothe the heart and quiet the mind. Where are you listening from tonight? Leave a comment. Your presence adds warmth to this quiet corner of the night. Now allow your breathing to slow, just a little, in through the nose and out through the mouth. Let us walk back together, far back to an evening when the world felt wider and nights belonged fully to the sky. The tower stands near the edge of the ancient city of Alexandria, though the city itself has already begun to fade into shadow. Stone streets release the day's warmth. Courtyards grow quiet. Somewhere, a door closes softly, not with urgency, but with familiarity. This is a city accustomed to night. From the harbor, the sea breathes in a slow, endless rhythm. Waves do not crash here. They arrive. They touch the shore as if remembering it, then retreat, carrying small whispers back into the dark. The tower watches all of this without judgment. Its base is wide and grounded, built to last beyond the lives of those who raised it. Higher up, the stone narrows, guiding the eye gently toward the sky. And at the top, still unlit for now, rests the space where fire will burn, where light will turn and travel, reaching far beyond what the eye can see. But tonight, before the flame, there is quiet. A lone figure moves slowly along the inner stairway. His steps are unhurried, echoing softly against the curved walls. He has walked these stairs many times, enough that his body knows them better than his thoughts do. One hand trails lightly along the stone, cool and reassuring beneath his fingers. He is not important in the way kings are important. History may never record his name. And yet, in this moment, he matters deeply to the ship still at sea, to the lives waiting for guidance, and perhaps even to us. At the top, he pauses. The sky above him is vast and clear. Stars emerge not all at once, but patiently, as though they too prefer a gentle pace. The moon, not yet full, hangs low, its light spreading thinly across the water. From here, the sea looks endless, not threatening, not dramatic, simply vast. If you have ever looked out at water at night, you may recognize this feeling. That soft loosening inside the chest. That sense of being small but not insignificant. Held somehow by something much larger. The man breathes in, deeply. Soon, the fire will be lit. Soon, the mechanisms polished by careful hands will begin their slow turning. But there is no rush. The ships are still distant. The night is still young. This tower has seen many nights already. It has watched storms approach and pass without comment. It has listened to the calls of seabirds and the silence that follows them. It understands something that people often forget in their hurry, that presence alone can be enough. Down below, the city sleeps unevenly. Some windows still glow faintly. A dog shifts in its rest. Somewhere a child turns over, dreaming of things they will not remember by morning. Time moves, but quietly, without urgency. And in this quiet, a question rests, not sharp, not demanding, but gentle. What does it mean to guide without controlling? To stand firm without forcing? To shine, not to dominate the dark, but to soften it. The tower does not answer. It never does. It simply remains. As the man prepares the fire, his movements are ritual-like, almost meditative. Wood placed carefully. Tools arranged just so. Each action learned through repetition, through nights like this one, and nights before it, stretching back farther than memory. There is comfort in repetition. Perhaps you feel it too, the way familiar motions calm the mind. The way routine can become a kind of shelter. Here, at the edge of the ancient world, the same truth holds. When the flame finally begins to glow, it does not blaze. It warms. Light gathers, steady and reassuring, and slowly, deliberately begins its work. The beam moves across the water, not searching, not chasing, simply offering itself. Far out at sea, someone will see it soon. A sailor tired but hopeful. A navigator counting stars. A crew trusting that land has not forgotten them. And none of them will know the man's name. None will see his face. But they will feel something settle inside them when the light appears. Relief, orientation, quiet gratitude they may not put into words. The tower gives without asking. As the night deepens, the world grows simpler. The city fades further into sleep. The sea continues its patient breathing. And the light turns again and again, a soft promise written in motion rather than sound. There is nothing you need to remember from this moment. Nothing you need to carry forward. Just the feeling of steadiness, of warmth against the dark, of time moving slowly, kindly. And somewhere within that feeling, a gentle curiosity begins to form about the lives shaped by this light, about the centuries it will outlast, about the quiet power of things made to endure. We will follow that curiosity soon, but not yet. For now, stay here where the night is calm, the tower is steady, and the world asks nothing of you at all. The night around the tower deepens, not with darkness, but with softness. The sky settles into darker shades of blue, and the stars seem to rest more comfortably in their places, as if they have nowhere else to be. Below, Alexandria exhales. The day's warmth lingers in stone walls and marble steps, releasing itself slowly into the air like a memory that refuses to hurry away. This city has learned, over centuries, how to live alongside time rather than chase it. Merchants have folded their cloth, scribes have set down their reeds, and the low conversations that once filled courtyards have thinned into murmurs and then into silence. Oil lamps glow behind latticed windows. Their light is not meant to illuminate everything, only enough to feel safe, only enough to remind those inside that the world is still there. From the tower, the city looks like a constellation of its own. Small points of amber light scattered across the land, mirroring the stars above, as though earth and sky have quietly agreed to resemble one another. The man at the top of the tower leans against the stone railing. It is cool now, smoother than it was at sunset, and he welcomes the sensation against his palms. He does not think of himself as a guardian. He thinks of himself as a participant in a long, quiet rhythm one that began before him and will continue after he is gone. Long before this tower existed, sailors navigated by instinct and starlight alone. They memorized the sky the way others memorized poems, tracing invisible paths between points of light that never seemed to move. But even stars can disappear behind clouds. Even the most practiced eyes can grow tired. The tower was not built to replace the sky. It was built to join it. Its light does not argue with the stars or compete with the moon. It simply adds another steady presence, one that speaks a language sailors understand immediately, without translation. Far out on the water, a ship adjusts its course almost without thinking. No words are exchanged, no signals returned, just a subtle shift, guided by trust. If you imagine that moment, you might feel your own body respond. A small easing in the shoulders, a sense of knowing where you are again. Alexandria itself was once an idea before it was a city. A vision of knowledge gathered in one place, of people arriving from different lands with different languages, carrying questions rather than weapons. The streets were laid not just for movement, but for wandering. The buildings were raised not only for use, but for endurance. And at the edge of it all, this tower stood as a reminder that even the greatest centers of learning must remain connected to the wider world. Knowledge, after all, is also a kind of light meant to travel. Inside the city, in a modest room not far from the harbor, an old map rests unfurled on a wooden table. Its edges are worn soft, corners rounded by countless hands tracing familiar routes. Someone has fallen asleep beside it, head resting on an arm, breath slow and even. The map does not mind being ignored for a while. Maps, like stories, are patient. They wait until we are ready to return to them. The tower's light continues its slow turning, uninterrupted. It does not grow brighter when the sea is calm, nor dim when the night grows long. This consistency is its greatest strength. In a world where so much changes, repetition becomes comfort. Perhaps that is why places like this stay with us even centuries later. They represent something we quietly crave, the assurance that not everything is fragile. As the hours pass, the city sinks deeper into rest. Sounds fade until only the most distant echoes remain, softened by the night air. The man at the tower shifts his weight and listens. He can hear the faint creak of the structure, the whisper of wind brushing against stone, the endless breathing of the sea. These sounds blend together, forming a rhythm older than the city itself. A rhythm that does not rush toward morning, but accepts night fully. If you let yourself follow that rhythm now, you may notice your own breathing align with it. Slower, deeper, more forgiving. There is no expectation placed upon you here. No lesson to memorize, no timeline to hold on to. History, in moments like this, becomes less about dates and names. It becomes about shared human pauses, nights when nothing urgent was required, when simply being present was enough. The tower has witnessed countless such pauses. It has watched generations come and go, each convinced their moment was singular, each eventually folding back into the long continuity of time. And still the light turns. A thin cloud drifts across the moon, softening its glow. For a moment, the stars dim slightly, then return, unchanged by the interruption. Nothing needs to be fixed. Nothing needs to be explained. Somewhere beyond the horizon, another ship will see the light soon. Another quiet correction will be made, another small relief felt, and then forgotten. This is how the tower works, not through grand gestures, but through accumulation. Night after night, presence after presence. As the man prepares to descend the stairs again, leaving the light to its steady work, he pauses one last time. He looks out across the dark water, not searching for anything in particular. Perhaps he is thinking of how the sea connects places that will never meet. Perhaps he is thinking of nothing at all. Both thoughts are equally welcome. The stairs spiral downward, and his footsteps fade. The tower remains, unbothered by his absence. Above, the sky holds its quiet vigil. Below, the city sleeps. And between them, the light continues to move slow, warm, and patient, offering direction, without demand, comfort without words. A gentle curiosity lingers now, like a half-remembered dream. What happens to a place when it becomes a symbol not of power but of care? We will follow that thought soon. For now, let it rest beside you, light as breath as the night carries on. Beyond the reach of the tower's light, the sea stretches into a deeper quiet. Here, the water is darker, heavier with reflection, holding the sky the way memory holds moments we no longer name. Ships move through this space slowly. Their hulls part the surface without urgency, leaving brief lines that vanish almost as soon as they appear. The sailors aboard do not speak much now. At night, conversation feels unnecessary, as though words might disturb something delicate. Some lean against the railing, eyes lifted. Others sit with their backs against coiled rope, listening to the familiar creaks and sighs of wood meeting water. They have learned to trust these sounds. Each one is a reassurance that the world is still behaving as expected. Long before charts were precise, before instruments could measure every angle, sailors learned to read patterns. The swell of the waves, the pull of the wind, the way stars shift slightly as hours pass. These patterns were not mastered quickly. They were absorbed over time, through repetition and quiet attention. The sea taught patience without explanation. Those who resisted its pace grew tired, while those who listened found themselves carried gently forward. Far beneath the surface, currents move with a steadiness unseen. They do not announce themselves, yet they shape journeys just as surely as wind or sail. The ancients sensed this even without understanding it fully. They spoke of the sea as a living presence, not to be conquered, only respected. As one ship glides onward, the tower's light appears again at the edge of vision. It is faint at first, barely distinguishable from the stars. No one points it out. Each person notices it privately, as though it were meant for them alone. With that sight comes a subtle change. Muscles loosen, breath deepens, and the night feels less vast. This response is older than thought. It lives in the body, not the mind. On shore, the tower continues its steady work. The flame is tended carefully, not to burn fiercely, but to endure. Its keeper has returned to the lower chambers now. There the air is cooler, the sounds softer, the world contained within stone walls. He sits for a while resting. The stillness wraps around him like a familiar cloak. In this quiet, memories drift freely. Not sharp recollections, but impressions, faces blurred by time, voices softened by distance. He remembers nights when the tower was new, when the stones still smelled fresh, and the mechanisms needed constant attention. He remembers older men guiding his hands, showing him how to listen for imbalance, how to trust the feel of things rather than force them. Those men are gone now. Their absence feels neither heavy nor sad, simply complete. Time, he has learned, does not erase, it layers. Each generation leaves something behind: knowledge, habit, presence, adding depth rather than weight. The tower holds these layers quietly, without preference. Outside, the wind shifts direction. It slides along the stone, then moves on, unconcerned with the mark it leaves. The sea responds with a slight change in rhythm. Waves arrive from a new angle, still calm, still patient. If you listen closely, you might notice how predictable unpredictability can be. Change, when it comes gently, feels almost like continuation. This is why the night feels different from the day. It allows transitions to happen without announcement. In the city, someone stirs briefly in their sleep. A dream turns, adjusts, then settles again. They do not remember the tower. They do not need to. Safety does not always announce its source. Often it is felt without being traced. Back at sea, the ship passes fully into the tower's range. The light now falls across the deck, pale and steady. For a moment, faces are illuminated. Lines of age, traces of fatigue, hints of quiet satisfaction. Then the beam moves on. Nothing lingers. Nothing clings. This fleeting touch is enough. Direction has been given, reassurance offered. As the ship continues, the light fades behind it. Ahead lies darkness again, but it no longer feels uncertain. Darkness, after all, is not absence. It is simply space waiting to be crossed. The ancients understood this intuitively. They told stories not to explain the night, but to accompany it. Stories of stars becoming guides. Stories of journeys that mattered not because of arrival, but because of movement itself. Tonight's story belongs to that tradition. It is not meant to be held tightly. If your thoughts drift now, that is welcome. If images blur, that is expected. The tower does not demand focus. Neither does the sea. They offer presence and allow the rest to unfold naturally. Somewhere far inland, a desert breathes out its stored heat. Somewhere else, a mountain holds onto the cold. All these places exist at once, connected by time rather than distance. The night gathers them together without effort. As the hours deepen, the tower's flame remains unchanged. Its steadiness is almost unremarkable. Yet it is precisely this lack of drama that gives it meaning. Reliability, when sustained long enough, becomes a form of kindness. Perhaps you can feel that kindness now, not as emotion, but as atmosphere. There is no destination you must reach tonight. No conclusion waiting ahead. Just this slow movement through thought and memory. This shared quiet between listener and story. The sea continues to remember everything, not in detail but in feeling. And as you rest here, suspended between wakefulness and sleep, the world asks nothing more of you than to remain. The next part of our journey will follow what remains after the light has passed, how places linger within us long after we leave them behind. For now, allow yourself to drift, carried by the same patience that guides ships home. When the tower's light passes on, it leaves no mark on the sea. The water closes behind it smoothly, as though nothing had interrupted its surface at all, and yet something remains. A subtle knowing carried not in sight but in the body, like the memory of warmth after stepping away from a fire. The ship continues forward, guided now by confidence rather than visibility. The sailors return to their quiet routines, trusting that the course has already been set. This is how guidance often works. It does not follow us endlessly, but it gives just enough for us to continue on our own. On land, the tower stands unchanged. Stone does not hurry, and neither does purpose. Its presence has shaped the shoreline slowly, almost imperceptibly. Paths have formed where people walk to look out over the water, pauses worn into the ground by generations of stillness. Some came here to watch ships depart. Others came to wait for their return. Waiting, too, became part of the tower's history. A soft, enduring practice. At dawn, fishermen would sometimes rest at its base, mending nets while the sky lightened above them. At dusk, travelers paused there, adjusting cloaks and expectations before entering the city. The tower witnessed all of this without preference. Arrival and departure mattered equally to it. In this way, it learned something about time that people often overlook. Moments are not important because they are beginnings or endings, but because they are lived. As night deepens again, the city grows even quieter. Sleep settles more fully, smoothing over the sharp edges of thought. Somewhere within the walls, an elderly woman breathes steadily, her dreams gentle and indistinct. She once watched the tower as a child, though she may not remember it clearly now. Memory fades details, but keeps feelings. The sense of safety, the warmth of familiarity, the calm of knowing where you are, these are the things that last. The tower understands this. Farther inland, a scholar's lamp burns low. Scrolls lie open, their words waiting patiently to be read another day. Knowledge, like light, does not demand immediate attention. It remains available, ready when needed. The tower was never meant to dazzle. Its builders understood restraint. They chose height not for dominance, but for visibility. They chose fire not for spectacle, but for consistency. In their quiet decisions, a philosophy took shape, that endurance matters more than intensity. As the night stretches on, clouds drift across the sky in slow procession. They soften the stars, then move on, leaving them unchanged. Change, when unforced, does not disrupt. It integrates. If you imagine standing near the tower now, you might feel the stone radiating stored warmth. Daylight's memory lingering gently beneath the surface. You might hear insects beginning their subtle chorus. Not loud enough to command attention, just enough to fill the silence. Silence, after all, is rarely empty. It is simply unoccupied by urgency. The tower holds silence the way a cup holds water. Without spilling, without strain. Its light continues to turn, measured and calm. Each rotation mirrors countless others, past and future blending together. Time, from this perspective, feels less like a line and more like a tide. Moving forward, then receding, always returning in some form. Perhaps this is why people still think of the tower long after it is gone. Why its image lingers in stories, in imagination, in quiet reflection. Not because it was the tallest or the brightest, but because it embodied something gentle and reliable. The world, even in ancient times, was full of noise. Markets clamored, politics shifted, ambitions rose and fell. Against all of this, the tower offered something rare, a steady point that did not compete. You may notice now how your own thoughts have slowed, how the edges of attention soften. There is no effort required, the rhythm has already been set. As the night reaches its deepest point, the city rests fully. Breathing becomes collective, almost synchronized. The tower's flame burns on, not brighter, not dimmer, just present. It does not ask who deserves guidance. It offers it freely. This quiet generosity is its legacy, one that does not need to be named to be felt. Somewhere beyond sight, another ship adjusts its sails. Another journey continues, unremarkable yet meaningful. And here, with nothing demanded of you, you remain part of that same gentle continuity, connected not by effort, but by shared stillness. In the next part of our journey, we will drift closer to the human heart of this ancient world, to the lives shaped quietly by the light, and the calm understanding they carried with them. For now, let the tower stand. Let the sea breathe. And allow yourself to rest in the space between moments, where nothing needs to happen at all. Great structure is surrounded by quieter lives. The tower may stand still, but around it, human stories move gently, like moons tracing familiar paths. Not far from the harbor, a baker wakes long before dawn. His hands know the work without instruction, measuring grain by feel, water by sound. He has never climbed the tower. Yet its presence shapes his mornings, marking time more reliably than any bell. When the light fades with the coming day, he knows the night has ended peacefully. That knowledge settles into his body, steady and unspoken. In a shaded courtyard, a young apprentice rolls papyrus into neat bundles. The library doors are still closed, and the air smells faintly of stone and ink. She pauses sometimes to look toward the sea. The tower's silhouette lingers in the early light, pale and familiar. She does not think of it as a wonder. It is simply part of the world she trusts. Trust grows best when it is never tested, when protection is present without being noticed. In another part of the city, an old sailor sits on a low step, repairing a net. His movements are slow now, shaped by years rather than urgency. He remembers nights when the tower's light was new to him. How strange it felt at first, this man-made star fixed in one place. Over time, it became as natural as the horizon. Something he no longer questioned, only relied upon. Memory smooths rough edges. What once required adjustment becomes comfort. Children play nearby, their laughter soft in the early hours. They chase one another between columns, unaware of the centuries pressing gently around them. To them, the tower is simply there, as inevitable as the sky, as constant as the sea. This is how continuity works. Each generation receives stability without needing to understand its construction. The tower does not ask for gratitude. It does not need to be explained. At midday, the sun traces its path across the stone. Shadows shorten, then lengthen again, repeating a pattern older than the city itself. The tower absorbs heat, stores it, releases it slowly. It participates in the day without effort. As evening returns, the familiar rituals begin again. Oil is prepared, mechanisms checked, flame readied. There is comfort in repetition, a reassurance that not everything must change to remain alive. The keeper moves with the ease of long familiarity. His body remembers even when his thoughts wander. He knows that others depend on this light, though he rarely meets them. Dependence, when quiet, creates invisible bonds. Across the water, a merchant vessel prepares to dock. The crew moves slowly, unhurried now that guidance has brought them close. They speak softly, conserving energy. Relief does not always express itself loudly. When the tower's light appears again, it is welcomed like an old friend. Not celebrated, not questioned. Just acknowledged. Just accepted. This acceptance is perhaps the tower's greatest gift. It teaches people how to rely without clinging. In the city, evening meals are shared. Bread broken, bowls passed, stories exchanged without drama. The tower's light slips between buildings, touches walls briefly, then moves on. No one pauses mid-conversation to remark on it. Its work does not interrupt life, it supports it quietly. If you imagine yourself walking these streets now, you might feel the day loosen its hold. Your steps would slow naturally, guided by the rhythm around you. The past, in moments like this, does not feel distant. It feels familiar. People then, like people now, sought the same things. Safety, continuity, a sense that the world would hold together through the night. The tower offered these not through promise, but through presence. Night after night, unchanged. As darkness settles fully, the city softens once more. Sounds blur, edges fade, thoughts grow less precise. This is not loss, it is preparation. Sleep, like trust, requires a letting go, a willingness to rest within something larger than oneself. The tower stands as proof that such structures can exist. That stability does not need to announce itself. Somewhere a young child is being guided toward bed. A window remains open just enough to let in night air. The child looks out once more before sleep takes hold. The light turns slowly in the distance. They will not remember this moment exactly, but the feeling will remain. And years later, when the world feels uncertain, that feeling may return unexpectedly. A quiet reassurance drawn from a memory they cannot name. This is how influence travels, not through force, but through accumulation. The tower's light continues its patient turning. The sea receives it, reflects it, releases it. Lives move gently around this rhythm, unremarkable, yet deeply connected. As you rest here now, listening, you are part of that same pattern. Another quiet witness, another presence held by the night. In the next part of our journey, we will drift further into reflection, toward what remains when structures fade, and only their meaning endures. For now, allow the rhythm to carry you. There is nowhere you need to go. Nothing built by human hands lasts forever. Even stone, patient and strong, eventually learns how to yield to time. The tower does not resist this truth. It stands within it, shaped by it, participating quietly in the long conversation between endurance and change. Wind smooths its edges a little more each year. Salt from the sea settles into fine lines, invisible at first, then gradually felt beneath the hand. These changes do not weaken the tower, they soften it. In the early mornings, when light arrives before sound, the stone seems almost warm with memory, as if it remembers every dawn it has greeted, every night it has watched pass. People still come to stand near it, not because they must, but because they feel drawn there without knowing why. Some lean against its base and close their eyes. Others simply pause, letting the view steady them before continuing on. They rarely speak about what they feel. There is no need. Places like this work beneath language. They communicate through presence, not explanation. The tower has learned to listen. To the city's slow breathing, to the sea's endless motion, to the subtle shifts of centuries. It listens without responding. And in doing so, it offers something rare: stillness. Long after the names of its builders have faded, the tower remains recognizable. Not as a monument to ambition, but as a companion to the landscape. Travelers describe it not by height or measurement, but by feeling. They say it makes the night feel kinder. Even when storms gather offshore, the tower does not hurry. It prepares, as it always has, with quiet adjustments rather than panic. The flame burns lower when winds rise. The mechanisms turn with patience, allowing resistance to pass rather than meeting it head-on. There is wisdom in this restraint. A knowledge that force invites struggle, while steadiness invites balance. If you imagine standing there during a storm, you might feel surprisingly calm. Not because danger is absent, but because it is acknowledged without fear. The tower does not deny darkness. It simply offers orientation within it. As centuries move forward, the world around the tower changes. Empires shift, languages evolve, borders redraw themselves again and again. Yet the sea remains. The night returns every evening without fail. And the idea of the tower persists even when the structure itself begins to fade. Stories travel farther than stone ever could. Sailors speak of a light that once guided them. Parents tell children of a place where the night felt safe. These stories are not precise. They do not need to be. Accuracy matters less than continuity. Meaning survives best when it is allowed to adapt. Eventually, the tower's light burns for the last time. Not suddenly, not dramatically. It dims with dignity, as though aware that its work has been done. The night receives this change without protest. The sea does not mourn. It remembers. And in remembering, it carries the tower forward in another form, as influence rather than object. Centuries later, people still feel something when they hear its name. A quiet recognition, even if they cannot explain it. This is how structures become symbols. Not through decoration, but through lived experience. The tower taught people something essential. That guidance does not need to be loud to be effective. That care does not require attention to matter. That presence, sustained gently, can shape generations. These lessons drift forward through time, settling into unexpected places. Into the way people build, the way they wait, the way they trust. You may notice them in your own life. In routines that calm you, in places that feel grounding without reason. Perhaps there's a window you like to look out of at night, or a familiar street that reassures you when everything else feels uncertain. These are your towers, quiet anchors in a moving world. As you rest now, the story slows further. Details soften, edges blur. There is no longer a need to picture stone or see clearly. The feeling is enough. Time here becomes circular. Past and present overlap gently, like waves meeting shore. You are not required to follow the story forward. You are free to drift alongside it. Breath deepens. Muscles release their holding. The tower, whether standing or remembered, continues to do what it has always done. Offer calm without expectation. In this way, it has never truly disappeared. It has simply changed form. Now it exists as atmosphere, as reassurance, as the understanding that even in darkness, something steady can exist without demanding anything in return. The night around you is doing the same, holding space, not asking for effort. If thoughts arise, let them pass like distant ships, seen briefly, then released. If images linger, allow them to soften. Nothing here needs to be sharp. The story has carried you far enough, from structure to memory, from light to feeling. In the next part, we will allow everything to grow even quieter, moving toward rest, toward the place where stories dissolve into sleep. For now, remain here, held gently by what endures. There comes a point in the night when even time seems to rest. Not stopped, not broken, just softened, like footsteps on sand. This is that hour. The one that exists between intention and sleep, where thoughts lose their urgency. The tower, whether standing or remembered, belongs to this hour. It was always most at home when nothing else demanded attention. In this quiet stretch, the sea grows smoother. Not perfectly still, but settled, as though it has finished speaking for the day. Waves arrive less frequently now. Their edges blur, their sound folding gently into itself. If you were standing near the shore, you might notice how the horizon becomes harder to define. Sky and water blend, boundaries loosening without resistance. The ancients noticed this too. They understood that night was not merely darkness, but a different way of seeing. During the day, clarity mattered. Lines were sharp, distinctions necessary. At night, those distinctions softened. The world allowed itself to be felt rather than measured. The tower fit naturally into this way of seeing. It was never meant to dominate the view, only to belong within it. Its light did not carve the darkness apart. It rested inside it, gently reshaping it. This is why the tower never startled anyone awake. Its presence was gradual, predictable, almost breathing, much like the body preparing for rest. One system quieting after another. The city, long asleep now, moves through its own cycles. Dreams rise and fall, untethered from logic. Some are vivid, others barely formed. Most dissolve before morning, yet the feeling they leave behind can linger, a mood. A warmth, a subtle calm. The tower has entered this dream space too, not as image, but as sensation, a sense of orientation, of knowing where you are, even when nothing is clear. Perhaps this is why people dreamed of it long after it was gone. Why it appeared not as stone, but as glow. Dreams rarely preserve detail, they preserve meaning. And the meaning of the tower was never complex. It was simply this: you are not lost. In the deepest part of the night, even the idea of direction becomes unnecessary. There is nowhere left to go. The body understands this before the mind does. Breath slows. Muscles soften. Awareness turns inward. The world outside fades without resistance. If you notice this happening now, allow it. There is no need to hold on to the story. The tower does not require witnesses. Neither does rest. Time during this hour feels circular again. Moments loop gently, without progress or retreat. This is not boredom. It is completeness. The ancients might have called this a sacred stillness. Not because it belonged to gods, but because it belonged to no one. It was shared, accessible, quietly generous. The tower stood within this stillness every night, receiving it, reflecting it, then letting it pass. Nothing was asked of it in return. Nothing was expected. This, perhaps, is the most restful thought of all, that worth does not always come from effort, that being present can be enough, that stillness itself can be a contribution. If your thoughts drift now, that is perfectly natural. They are meant to. Like the sea under moonlight, the mind settles when it is no longer pushed. Patterns smooth themselves out. You may feel heavier or lighter. Both are signs of letting go. The story no longer needs images. Stone, sea, city, all can fade gently. What remains is atmosphere, a sense of being held within something steady and kind. The tower's work at this point is complete. Guidance has been given. Now comes rest. Nothing more will be revealed. Nothing more is required. In the next part, the story will grow even quieter. Words will soften, meaning will thin, and sleep will find its way in naturally. For now, stay here in this hour where everything slows, where the night breathes evenly. And if you slip away before the story continues, that is exactly as it should be. The tower would approve. At some point, the story no longer moves forward. It begins instead to dissolve, like mist thinning as morning approaches. This is not an ending. It is a gentle unfastening. The tower, now far behind or perhaps nowhere at all, has done what it came to do. Its shape is no longer needed. What remains is a feeling quiet, steady, unremarkable in the best possible way. Like the sense of being home without needing to define where that is. The night has grown very still. Not silent, but settled into a rhythm too soft to interrupt. Sounds arrive and pass without forming patterns. A distant movement, a breath, the faint awareness of space around you. The mind, released from structure, begins to wander without direction. Thoughts appear, then fade before they fully form. This is the natural landscape of rest. A place where nothing needs to be resolved. If images surface, let them drift. If memories rise, allow them to soften. There is no need to hold on to any one thing. Everything here is temporary, and that is what makes it peaceful. The ancients believed that sleep was a kind of crossing. Not a journey with distance, but a shift in awareness. They did not try to control this shift. They welcomed it, trusting the body to know the way. The tower, in its time, existed at the threshold between known and unknown. Between shore and sea, light and dark. Now you stand at a similar threshold. One that does not require courage, only permission. Breath moves in slow cycles, each one slightly deeper than the last. With every exhale, something loosens. A thought, a tension, a quiet expectation. The story continues, but more faintly now. Words grow less distinct, meaning more diffuse. This is intentional. Sleep prefers suggestion to instruction. If your attention drifts away from the sound of the voice, let it. Nothing important will be missed. The most essential part has already been given. A sense of safety, a sense of continuity. Somewhere in the background of awareness, time keeps moving. But it no longer needs your participation. Minutes may pass unnoticed. Or hours. The difference does not matter here. Night measures itself differently. The tower once marked time with turning light. Now time marks itself with breath, in and out. A rhythm older than language. If you notice the edges of your body becoming less defined, that is natural. Sleep softens boundaries. You are not disappearing. You are simply resting within yourself. The world outside continues quietly. Cities breathe, seas move, skies shift. You do not need to attend to any of it. It will be there when you return. For now, awareness narrows gently, like a lens closing. Focus gives way to presence. The story no longer needs to guide you. You are already where you need to be. In this space, effort dissolves completely. There is no task left undone. If you feel yourself drifting further away, allow it. That is the intended direction. The tower, if it could speak, would offer no final words. It would simply remain silent, confident in what has already been shared. And so the voice softens, the pauses lengthen. Thought gives way to sensation, sensation gives way to rest. In the final part of our journey, there will be very little left to say. Only space, quiet, and release. If you arrive there before the story does, that is perfect. Sleep has found you gently, without force. Stay with this drifting. Let go of the edges. The night holds you now, and nothing more is required. By now, the story has almost let go of itself. What once had shape and sequence has softened into something closer to a feeling. There is no tower to picture anymore. No sea to follow, no horizon to watch. Those images have done their work. They have guided you here to a place where guidance is no longer needed. This is the quietest part of the night. The hour when even memory grows tired. Thoughts arrive more slowly now. They drift through awareness like distant lights seen through fog. You do not need to follow them. You do not need to push them away. They know how to leave on their own. Everything here does. Breathing has become the main rhythm. Steady, unforced, almost unnoticed. Each breath feels like it belongs to the space around you as much as to you. In this way, the boundary between inside and outside becomes less important. The ancients would have recognized this state. They believed it was where the soul rested when words could no longer reach it. Not a place of dreams yet, but a threshold, wide and forgiving. The tower once stood at such a threshold, between land and sea, between certainty and mystery. Now that role has passed to the night itself, and to this moment. If there is any effort left in your body, it can soften now. There is no reason to hold tension here. The shoulders settle, the jaw loosens. Even the small muscles around the eyes release their focus. Sight fades gently inward. You may notice that the sense of time has thinned. Minutes no longer announce themselves. The mind, relieved of tracking, grows quiet. Not empty, just resting. This is not something to achieve. It happens naturally when nothing interrupts it. The story is no longer moving. It is simply present. Words are fewer now, spaced farther apart. Their purpose is no longer to paint images, but to keep company, like a low light left on in another room. Not to illuminate, but to reassure. If you drift away between sentences, that is welcome. The story does not need you to listen closely anymore. It understands that rest comes before endings, and that sleep is the most gentle conclusion of all. Somewhere very far away, a morning is already beginning, but it does not concern you. Here, the night is complete. Nothing presses forward. The body knows what to do next. It always has. Muscles continue to soften. Breath continues its quiet rhythm. The mind loosens its grip on form and sequence. Thought becomes texture rather than meaning. This is where stories naturally dissolve. Not because they are forgotten, but because they are absorbed. The tower, the sea, the city, all of it has already become part of the background. A calm foundation rather than a focus. If you try to recall details now, they may feel distant or vague. That is a sign of release, not loss. Sleep prefers simplicity. It gathers what it needs and leaves the rest behind. The voice too grows gentler. Its presence is less distinct, more like a current than a sound. Soon, even that will not be necessary. Silence will take over naturally. There is nothing left to resolve. Nothing waiting to happen. Just this slow settling. This ease. If you are still aware of your surroundings, they feel farther away now. Edges blur, sounds soften. The room you are in feels less important than the sensation of rest itself. Gravity holds you without effort. The story has brought you exactly where it intended to a place beyond narrative. In the final moments, there is no lesson offered. No summary, no reflection, only space, only quiet. And if sleep arrives before the story officially ends, that is perfect. That is the truest success of all. In the final part, there will be almost nothing left to say. Just a gentle closing, like a door resting softly against its frame. If you reach it, you may already be asleep. If not, it will meet you kindly. For now, remain here, wrapped in stillness, breathing, resting. The night holds everything else. Now, there is almost nothing left of the story. Not because it has ended, but because it no longer needs to speak. The night has carried everything where it belongs. Images, thoughts, meanings all set gently aside. What remains is quiet. Not an absence, but a presence so soft it barely asks to be noticed. Breath moves slowly, naturally. Each inhale arrives without effort. Each exhale releases what is no longer needed. The body rests fully within its own weight, supported, held, allowed. There is no tower to imagine now, no sea, no city, no light turning in the dark. Those things have dissolved into something simpler. A sense of safety without shape. This is where stories are meant to leave us. Not at a conclusion, but at a resting place. The ancients understood this ending well. They knew that true rest came not from understanding, but from release. Words were never meant to follow you into sleep. They were only meant to walk beside you until sleep arrived. Now, they step back. Silence expands, comfortably. It does not rush to fill anything. It simply is. If awareness flickers, that is natural. Sleep arrives in waves, not all at once. You may feel yourself drifting, then returning briefly. Each time, the return is softer, shorter. There is no need to stay with the sound of the voice. It will fade on its own. The night knows how to take over. It has done this countless times before. Thought has slowed to a murmur, then to a whisper. Soon, even that will quiet. The body enters its own deeper rhythm. One that does not require attention. Heartbeat, breath. These are enough. The world outside continues, but it feels distant now. Unimportant, safely beyond reach. You are not required to participate in it. Not now. Here, there is no expectation, no role to play. Just rest. If you are still listening, allow the sound to blur. Let it become part of the background, like wind through leaves. Nothing in this moment needs to be remembered. Nothing needs to be carried forward. Sleep does not ask for meaning. It asks only for surrender. And surrender here is gentle, unforced, like lowering your head onto a familiar pillow, like closing a door that does not need to be locked. The story has already done its work. It has slowed you, softened you, kept you company. Now it steps away. If you are already asleep, then the night has welcomed you fully. If you are still hovering at the edge, stay there. That edge is wide and kind. It will hold you until you drift across. Before the voice fades completely, there is one quiet reminder. You are not alone in this rest. Here, no one rests alone. Every story is a soft lantern in the dark. If tonight's story brought you calm, leave a gentle comment for yourself when you wake. If it reminded you of a beautiful memory, feel free to share it below. And when you are ready, don't forget to subscribe for more peaceful nighttime. Journeys with tedious history for sleep. This quiet place will be here again whenever you return. Now there is nothing left to follow. Nothing left to do. The night holds you. Sleep arrives, gently, naturally.